funny thing did happen to us too. Some funny thing happened. You couldn't help laughing at them. They said there's a canteen ship came in, and see, we never got any sweets or anything like that. No pudding or anything like that. It would be a joke. But this is a canteen ship in, and we have some chocolates that we can sell from the canteen, but we won't be giving change. If you've got a £5 note, you've got to get £5 worth. We can't give you change. So I had an Egyptian pound note, which is equivalent to about 25 shillings in those days of ours. And they said, pick a man to go down to leave the trench and go down, and he'll bring the stuff back up to you. So I gave him this money, and I said, spend it on chocolate, just get, chocolate. So he comes back up, and he's got this great heap now. They were £0.25 blocks in those days, and I think they're worth about the equivalent of 9 pence a block. I ended up with about 30 blocks of these things, and I thought, oh, beauty, And he handed them to me, and I couldn't wait to tear all the paper pieces and got stuck in and cleaned up to them. And it was a mint flavour. And I looked down, and every single one was mint chocolate. So if you could think, you could go through dozens of them, and then it would melt in the daytime, and at night time it'd be like a solid block of, and so it would go on, And when we were due to come out, I didn't know, we got lifted out from this thing, and I had just had my hair cut real short, and they took us out of Tobruk. And this is just a story byline. When I went back into Palestine, of course, I had no hair. I was as bald as a badgie, and I was very, very sensitive about it. I went in to go to a barber shop to get a shampoo. Now, I'd been back in Palestine for about a week, and every single 3 or 4 times a day I got under a shower there because there was plenty of water. I used to get this soap and soap it up, and the filth that came out of me. I went into this Jewish barber shop, and I said, I want a shampoo, please. Well, it took her about 3 basins of water. She brought it to me, and in the end she says to me, your hair, it is very dirty. I said, well, if you had been where I had been, I said, your hair would be very dirty too. So later on then I thought, well, I've had so much filth got out of my hair, I'll go to this sauna bath. So down the street was a sauna bath. Now, I'd never been in a sauna bath before, I didn't have a clue what the score was. So I paid my money and I went in, and there's a bloke there he's got a towel around him, and he grabbed me. He said, you want the works? I said, yeah. I said, I've been up in the desert, I'm pretty dirty. He said, right. So I dropped my clothes, and he slapped me on the table, and he stubbed this sort of grease all over me, and they got hold of 2 things like roller skates, except the wheels didn't move. And he whacked them up the ribs and down my back. Well, you've got no idea. The dirt didn't come out of me, just dirt. It came out of slime. It just pushed all this stuff out of my pores, and absolutely, it amazed me. But I'm very ticklish. I'm nearly killing myself laughing every time I hit my ribs with these things. I'm killing myself laughing, And so after that was over, what was the rest of the thing? Oh yes, I know. He said, right over, he said, hop into the hot shower. And I went in the hot shower, and then he shoved me in an ice cold shower. It was freezing cold at it. And he said, look, go up those steps there, right up the top, he said, and do a bit of sauna bathing. Now, the place was full of steam, and I didn't have a clue. There was just this thing about as wide as this room, and this steps going up right near the ceiling. So I got up, I had a rail, and went up near the top. And when I got up there, the steam was choking me. I got a claustrophobic feeling I had to get out in a hurry. Well, I just thought I went for my life. And what I didn't realise was there's all these Jewish people in there, men, and they're lying on towels, soaking up all this heat, see? The first thing I knew, I stood right in the guts of a big fat Jewish bloke. He stood up, and I slid down the steps on my bum. I tell you, I banged on that door and I got out so quick. So I had clean hair, clean shaven. So that was that. So, yeah, there's millions of things. I could go on forever actually, but I'll just see if there's anything else. You can keep that too. That's every week, every month, every year I should say, I went up to class school and I've got 20 envelopes there full of reports from the children as they reported back on my talk to them. I didn't tell them what I've told you all here, believe me.
No.
I just toned it down for them. But they, yes, I've got all those things in there, and they've the last lot I got 24, I think it was, and I sent what I was doing. I'd fill that in, and then answer the child's letter. Down there, I'd tell him answer his questions. Now I had about 24 or 27, and that was the average. And this time I wasn't well. I got Susan to help me, and we filled them out. And I'm quite proud of myself. I'd carried it through. And a week or so ago, what happens? Another great envelope arrives with another 24 from another group of kids. And the kids I've been instructing all this time, the whole lot of them went down to Canberra. They were chosen to go down to Canberra for the anniversary of at the end of the war, 60th and 65th anniversary end of the war. They were taken right round, so they would see the big guns I was talking about, and I'd see them down there. So, but I just couldn't answer each one individually. So what I did, I just wrote in here and thanked them very much for everything, and just asked them to excuse me. But then I sent it off yesterday, So that was that. But year after year I'd get that. I'll just see if there's anything else.
What do you actually do, like during the war? What do you actually do after the Tobruk
Well,
sort of was over?
I was 18 months attached to Ordnance as an instructor. Now our Ordnance men, they were probably good at their own jobs, but they never knew the first thing about anything. They had no idea. They didn't even know how to fix bayonets, and it was my job to train them. So I had what you'd call a pretty cushy job, just teaching them. But some of them were pretty thick-headed and hard to get through, and got very monotonous. Anyway, I had copped a bit of knocking around with training and things like that. My neck was telescoped. I got 5 or 6 of this cervical vertebrae pushed together, and they were causing dizzy spells, and I got bronchial asthma from the desert and everything like that, and my arm was buggered up, my knees were buggered up. So I stayed in the army, but I had a pretty cushy job back in Australia then, just sort of supervising things till the war ended.
Because a lot of the rats of Tobruk then came back to New Guinea, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they did now. That was the sad part of it now. I'll give you an idea of what can happen. There were 4 of us. There was a bloke named Jimmy Mercer. He was my best mate. And he was about 50 yards in his position, and a shell came and just blew him to pieces. There were 4 of us around a great big tube that had come from an Italian tractor, and one day we were down the seaside. The 4 of us were all enjoying ourselves, bouncing up and down and everything. And it struck me a short time after that, of the 4 that were there, there was the last one left alive. The other 3 had been killed. And all these things hanging on you, sort of over you all the time.